Karen called 911 over sold-out shelves, then trashed the store and got arrested. What would you do if a single empty shelf sparked a storm that brought down an entire store? In the heart of a bustling suburban supermarket, chaos erupted on what should have been an ordinary Tuesday afternoon. Karen Mitchell, a 42-year-old mother of two, stood in aisle 7, staring at an empty shelf where her favorite organic quinoa should have been. Her voice, sharp and trembling, sliced through the hum of shoppers. "This is unacceptable," she screamed, clutching her phone as she dialed 911. Her call wasn't about an emergency, it was about entitlement. She demanded the police arrest the store manager for false advertising. Because the quinoa was sold out, customers froze, their carts squeaking to a halt, as Karen's tirade escalated into a full-blown spectacle. The 911 operator's calm voice crackled through her phone, urging her to explain the emergency. Karen's response was a torrent of complaints. The store was stealing her time, the manager was incompetent, and the empty shelf was a personal attack. Shoppers whispered, some rolling their eyes, others pulling out phones to record. A teenage cashier, barely 17, tried to intervene, explaining the quinoa was delayed due to a supply chain issue. Karen spun around, her eyes blazing. "Don't you dare talk back to me," she snapped, jabbing a finger at the cashier, who shrank back, her name tag glinting. Maya. The manager, a soft-spoken man named Greg, hurried over, his apron wrinkled from a long shift. He apologized profusely, offering a discount on another brand. But Karen wasn't having it. "I don't want your cheap substitutes," she bellowed, her voice echoing past the cereal boxes. As Greg scrambled to calm her, the truth behind Karen's outburst began to unravel. She wasn't just upset about quinoa. Earlier that day, she'd been laid off from her mid-level office job. Her car had broken down, and her husband had texted her about an overdrawn bank account. The empty shelf wasn't the problem, it was the final straw in a day of unraveling control. Karen's rage wasn't about quinoa. It was about a life spiraling beyond her grasp. She saw the supermarket as a battlefield, and she was ready to wage war. What she didn't know was that her actions were about to ignite a confrontation that would change everything. The situation escalated when Karen, ignoring Greg's pleas, grabbed a jar of marinara sauce from a nearby shelf and hurled it at the floor. The glass shattered, splattering red across the tiles like a crime scene. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Maya, the cashier, ducked behind a display, her hands shaking. "You're all liars," Karen shouted, grabbing more items, cans of soup, boxes of pasta, and tossing them with reckless abandon. Shelves wobbled as she yanked at them, sending cereal boxes tumbling. A mother pulled her toddler away, shielding his eyes. But then, an unexpected figure stepped forward. An elderly woman named Ruth, barely 5 feet tall, with silver hair and a cane. Ruth had been shopping quietly, her cart filled with cat food and tea. She'd seen Karen's type before, bullies who thrived on chaos. With a steady voice, she said, "Ma'am, you're scaring people. Stop this now." Karen froze, stunned by Ruth's courage. For a moment it seemed like the storm might pass. But the pause was fleeting. "Mind your own business, old lady," Karen spat, shoving a display of canned beans that toppled toward Ruth. The crowd gasped as Ruth stumbled, her cane clattering to the ground. Greg lunged to catch her, but the damage was done. The store, once a place of routine, was now a war zone of broken glass and scattered goods. Karen's rampage had crossed a line, and the shoppers weren't just spectators anymore, they were witnesses to her unraveling. The confrontation reached its peak as sirens wailed outside. 2 police officers burst through the sliding doors, their radios crackling. Karen, now panting, stood amidst the wreckage, her hands still clutching a box of instant oatmeal. "Arrest them," she demanded, pointing at Greg. "They're scamming customers." The officers exchanged glances, their faces unreadable. One of them, Officer Daniels, approached her calmly. "Ma'am, we got a call about a disturbance. Can you explain what's happening?" Karen launched into her story, but her words were drowned out by the murmurs of the crowd. Maya, still shaken, stepped forward, her voice trembling but firm. "She's been throwing things and yelling at everyone. She almost hurt that lady," she said, pointing to Ruth, who was now seated, sipping water from a bottle Greg had given her. The officers turned to Karen, their expressions hardening. "Ma'am, you need to come with us," Officer Daniels said, reaching for his handcuffs. Karen's face contorted in disbelief. "You're arresting me? For what?" she shrieked, dropping the oatmeal box. The crowd watched in silence as the cuffs clicked around her wrists. Ruth, now steady on her cane, looked at Karen with pity, not anger. "You didn't have to do this," she said softly, her words cutting deeper than any shout. Karen's bravado crumbled. Her shoulders slumped, and her eyes darted around, meeting the stares of shoppers who no longer saw her as a threat, just a woman undone by her own fury. As the police led Karen out, the store fell quiet, save for the crunch of glass underfoot. Greg and Maya began cleaning up, their faces a mix of exhaustion and relief. The shoppers, once frozen, started helping, picking up cans and sweeping debris. Ruth, ever the quiet hero, stayed to thank the officers before heading home to her cats. Karen's rampage had left a mark not just on the store, but on everyone who witnessed it. She'd called 911 expecting to be the victim, but her actions had turned her into the villain. The store's security footage, already circulating online, would ensure her meltdown lived on. A cautionary tale of what happens when entitlement meets a breaking point. In the days that followed, Karen faced charges of vandalism and disorderly conduct. The supermarket, though battered, reopened with restocked shelves and a new sense of community among its staff. Maya, inspired by Ruth's bravery, applied for a promotion, determined to prove she was more than a scared teenager. Greg, meanwhile, received a heartfelt letter from Ruth, thanking him for his kindness. The story of Karen's meltdown spread, sparking debates online and in coffee shops. Was she a monster or just a woman pushed too far? The truth, as always, was messier than the headlines. This story isn't just about a woman losing control, it's about the ripple effects of our choices. Karen's rage destroyed more than shelves. It shattered her own dignity. Yet, in the chaos, there were moments of grace. Ruth's courage, Maya's resolve, Greg's patience. Their actions remind us that even in the face of anger, kindness can rebuild what's broken. What do you think? Where do we draw the line between frustration and destruction? Share your thoughts, because every story like this one holds a lesson for us all.